YouTube. It's so back with another one for you. So this here is a continuation of Redemption Manual 5, and we're gonna start getting into the what do you call it? The Wizard of Oz and the hidden meaning behind it, and how it really makes reference to what happened here in America when they switched from the regular states into the corporate overlay of what the states are now, which is really just corporations. And we'll get into the hidden meaning behind a lot of what the movie talks about here. So let's get into that. Get right into that. So here it says The Wizard of Oz, the coded movie of what really happened to America. So just as you can read between the glory lines in the newspaper or any given day in America, you can discover clues and truths slipped in by the powers that be. And so this is what they do too, because they have to tell you what it is that they're doing. And so they think that by doing this, that this somehow alleviates them of any possible karma because they told you, but you didn't see it, right? So slipped in by the powers that be. If you look hard enough as to what's actually going on, such notice can also be found in somewhat lighter fare, the movies. So truth in the movies lies in the news, right? So as you well know, movies have become the national pastime of entertainment. Millions go to the movies, VHS tapes, and DVDs fill the rest of the gap. The storyline, topics, and time frames vary as the manuscript of the vision of the directors. Such a movie was The Wizard of Oz, an allegory for the new state of affairs in America in the 1930s, following the stock market crash and the factual bankruptcy of the United States government immediately following. The Wizard of Oz movie is not just a movie for children, though perceived today it is. It has become a national icon of a historical nature, replayed every year on television just for the children. What is missed by most is the symbolism in the movie. In almost every character, aspects of the set and so-called special effects and props back then, after reading this article and then seeing the movie again, it will never be the same to you or to your children. The setting was Kansas, heartland of America, the geographical center of the USA. In comes the twister, the tornado, whirling confusions of the stock market crash that left everybody economically dizzy. It signified the theft of America's gold, the coming U.S. bankruptcy, the Great Depression. The tornado whisked Dorothy and Toto up into new, artificial, dreamlike dimensions somewhere above the solid ground of Kansas. When Dorothy awakes, she finds herself in the land of Oz. Dorothy comments to her little companion Toto, "I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore." That's right, after the bankruptcy, Kansas was no longer just plain old Kansas, it was now KS. In the same way that you see Massachusetts is now MA, right? An artificial corporate venue of the bankrupt United States' newly established federal territory, part of the federal zone, and Dorothy and Toto were in this state now. On her journey in this unfamiliar land, Dorothy meets up with three unusual characters, each having certainly a different problem or aspect portrayed on the silver screen, but their true identity has been decoded, and it is as follows. So let's get into this. So this is just a couple of slides. I'm gonna start doing these in smaller sections, so we get like 10-minute videos to keep everybody's fucking attention here. So the first was the Scarecrow, a man of straw, a front, and he identified his straw man persona for Dorothy. Some people without brains do an awful lot of talking. Of course, I'm not bright about doing things, and in his classic song, "If I Only Had a Brain," the Scarecrow straw man succinctly argued I'd unravel every riddle for every individual in trouble or in pain. Today, in light of redemption, would translate it as once one discovers that his straw man exists, all political and legal mysteries, complexities, and confusions are resolved or understood. And once one takes legal title control of his straw man via UCC1, that's how you do it, he becomes the authorized representative of the straw man to accept and discharge or settle all commercial fears. As in Oz, the new commercial world, aka the Matrix, because the straw man has no brains and has no hands or fingers to grasp a pen to write the check, so to speak, to pay the fine, fee, tax, or debt. The second character was the Tin Man, the TIN, tax identification number. The Tin Man was a hollow man of metal or a vessel, a vehicle, a newly created commercial word for the straw man Just like the Scarecrow, the Tin Man had no brain and had no heart. Both were artificial persons. One of the definitions of tin in Webster's is counterfeit. The Tin Man also represented the mechanical and heartless aspect of commerce and commercial law, just like they say in the mafia, nothing personal, it's just business. And in another profession similar to the mafia, the business of lawyering, they have the attitude that it's nothing personal. Business is business. The heartless Tin Man also carried an axe, the traditional symbol for God. Interesting. Interesting. Let's get to the next slide. Commercial law in earlier dominant civilizations, including fascist states in the world of the Tin Man, expressing relief, and Dorothy had oiled his rusty points and parts, he said, I've held that axe up for ages. The word ace is entomologically related to the word axe, and in a deck of cards, the only one above the king is the ace. God, one of the Axis powers of the World War II, Italy was a fascist state. The symbol for fascism is the fasces, a bundle of rods with an axe bound up in the middle and its blade projecting. The fasces may be found on the reverse of the American Mercury head dime. A Roman deity, Mercury, was the god of commerce. It can also be found on the wall behind and on each side of the speaker podium at the U.S. Senate. Each gilded fasces is approximately 6 feet in height, and the base of the seal of the U.S. Senate are the two crossed faces. The third character that Dorothy met was the Cowardly Lion, or King of Beasts, and as the most feared of all animals in the jungle, was lacking courage. The lion is symbolic of the once fearless American people who have since lost their courage. Yes, there are a lot of hot talkers out there. Just listen to your local radio talk shows. American men love to talk, but none have the courage to do a damn thing. The American people are scared of the corporate federal system and the local revenue collectors, the cops, judges in their so-called courtrooms, the tribunals, and the justice of commerce. After you first go around with all these just us systems, believe that there was no justice in the courts, you probably lost some of your courage too. And you may have not known it, but the IRS has been dealing with only your strawman debtors strictly under the laws of commerce. And that's what it is. Everything's commercial, man. It's all commercial. So, and are just like the Tin Man, heartless. After Dorothy and her 3 companions made their way to Oz, they had learned that they had to go see the wizard. To find the wizard, they had to just follow the yellow brick road. Gold is known as the yellow bricks and are melted into ingots. All one has to do is follow the trail of America's stolen gold, and you will find the thief who stole it. In the beginning of the movie, the wizard was represented by the traveling mystic Professor Marvel, whom Dorothy encountered when she ran away with Toto. His macabre shingle touted that he was acclaimed by the crowned heads of Europe, past, present, and future. Boy, that Professor Marvel had been a regular wizard to be acclaimed by the future crowned heads of Europe before they were even crowned. Before the bankers stole America, they had long since disempowered the Christian monarchies of Europe and looted their kingdoms. Maybe this Professor Marvel fellow knew something about the future that other folks didn't. With a human skull peering down from his painted perch on the door inside the wagon, the good professor lectured Dorothy and the priests of Isis and Osiris and the day of the pharaohs of Egypt. When Dorothy and her new friends emerged from the forest, they were elated to see the Emerald City before them in just a short way. Then came the Wicked Witch of the West, desperate for the ruby slippers, and I mean, mind you, the ruby slippers were really silver in the beginning, and then they turned them into red ruby. But the silver slippers that were in the fucking original movie represented all the silver that is here in fucking America. We sit on some of the biggest silver mines anywhere, and silver is way more valuable than gold is because you need silver to make gold. You get it? So they fucking manipulated all of those markets since fucking day one. So because they held special powers. So a significant point here is in the original book, The Wizard of Oz, published in 1900. 39 years earlier, the slippers were not red, but silver. Oh, yeah. All right, so I guess that is in this too. So in the first cut of the movie, the slippers were silver, but then changed to red to be more colorful. At the time the book was written, America still had all of its gold and silver. The value of 1 ounce of gold was set at 15 ounces of silver, with the silver being more plentiful of the two metals and generally known as poor man's gold. Just as silver slippers carried Dorothy, America's stockpile of silver and gold backing the currency carried the country to a position of premierness throughout the world at that time. But as mentioned, when the movies came out in 1939, the slippers were not silver but red. Between 1916 and 1933, most of America's gold was rounded up by the privately owned Federal Reserve and shipped off to the Fed owners in England and Germany. The reason for this was the Federal Reserve notes could be redeemed in gold, and the use of Federal Reserve notes carried an interest penalty that could be paid in gold. The American people were defrauded into trading their gold for worthless paper and with green ink on it. Our previous currency, United States notes, carried no such interest requirements, but such as the bargain that came with the Federal Reserve notes. The reason JFK was murdered, but because he was reissuing United States notes interest-free. Go in any coin store and see or buy a 1963 U.S. Federal Reserve note. And JFK never died. All right, so that was all part of the fucking movie too. And if you don't believe me, why don't you go look at a picture of fucking President Carter and JFK side by side? It's him. So it's all just part of their fucking stupid little game to keep everybody scared to stand the fuck up. So it is a game of chess. Stop playing checkers with these fucking assholes. That's what I got for you for now. Until we